a human girl, an infamous magic teacher, and a super-powered dog thing. In 2020, Dana Terrace's The Owl House filled the gap that Gravity Falls had left behind. And when Disney canceled the series, fans had to return to that gap. But that's where the Ancient Magus Bride comes in. Its themes, characters, and occasional bit of humor resonates with the Owl House. But Albion's mythology is significantly more sinister than that of the Boiling Isles. And in case you haven't seen one or both of the series, their inciting incidents, while drastically different in circumstance, resolve in a very similar fashion. In the Owl House, Luce stumbles Alice in Wonderland style into an alternate dimension full of warlocks and witches, the Boiling Isles. She bumbles into Ida, the Owl Lady, a renowned criminal and purveyor of human artifacts, and after helping Ida with a heist to retrieve King, the dog thing's crown, Luce settles in with Ida and the Owl House, while she tries to figure out how to get back home. The Ancient Magus Bride, on the other hand, opens the same, but different. After being abandoned by her family, Chise decides to sell herself as an involuntary intern on the black market. You see, Chise had always been able to see things that no one else could. And it wasn't until the infamous mage, Elias Ainsworth, hired her that she discovered why. She's a Slaybeggy, a human that can generate and channel magical energy, and those hallucinations were actually fairies. Fitting, since once she settles in with Elias, we learn he's in need of an apprentice, and thus begins his journey to teach Chise how to be a mage in the modern world. So, obviously there may be some spoilers ahead, though I will do my best to avoid spoiling either series for you. That said, one of the overarching themes in both shows is that the world is far wider than our characters have been led to believe. Luce finds a whole other dimension, and Chise pierces the veil that shrouds the Fae from the rest of the world. For the Owl House, this theme begins to hum louder and louder the more you find out about the Boiling Isles. Emperor Belos is attempting to segregate magic into covens, forcing a serious magical limitation on anybody that isn't a part of his inner circle. As the story progresses, the theme evokes the word acceptance. It's right in the first episode.
Us weirdos have to stick together, and nobody should be punished for who they are.
Magus Bride follows suit, though it's more about the acceptance of self. Chise, having been ostracized by friends and family, steps into the world of the Fae with a reckless abandon. And Elias, odd as his personality and appearance may be, seems to have a genuine interest in Chise's well-being. He is the anime's Ida, after all. And rather than a singular antagonist like Belos, it seems like there are several sects of Fae and humans that want to take advantage of Chise's inherent magical ability. It's up to Chise whether she accepts the reality of her near-Fae heritage, as well as whether she wishes to remain a victim of circumstance. But the Owl House's theme of acceptance goes further than just with self. There's some real-world commentary there as well. Belos has a desire for top-down control, making him a stand-in for the puritanical forebears we've come to know and love. Luce and her crew are a representation of everything that Belos isn't. Ida's desire to remain a wild witch, someone that engages with all forms of magic, easily represents someone's desire for a freedom of expression. Instead of, our new age of banning. Which is kind of ironic, given Disney's recent moves in Florida. Specifically in that the Owl House was canceled, according to its creator, because it, quote, didn't fit the Disney brand. I guess you can have characters be witches or outwardly LGBTQ+, but not both. Meanwhile, the Ancient Magus Bride focuses more on a personal level, exploring the darker sides of human nature through the Fae. And to appreciate that properly, we need to understand some of the references in both the anime and the Owl House. One of the things I loved about the Owl House is how it created its own history, legends, and mythology. Part of its appeal is discovering, along with Luce, the mysteries of the Boiling Isles. What was the Titan? How do the glyphs work? What breed of dog is king?
I am not a...
And there are tons of anime references. You might think King, in this context anyway, is referencing Elias, but he's actually inspired by Cubone from Pokemon. There's a whole episode named Hootie's Moving Castle that clearly riffs on the Ghibli movie Howl's Moving Castle. And Ida's character was supposedly designed on the Tenchi Universe character Ryoko. It's no wonder I thought Ida could get it.
But no.
Anyway, if you like this kind of reference hunting, subscribe and drop a comment to let me know. I could probably make an entire video just on these kind of anime references in Western media. Magus Bride achieves the same kind of unfolding discovery that's in the Owl House, but it uses real-world mythology and a little artistic license. For example, in the real world, a Sleighbeggy is a kind of fairy from the Isle of Man, not a magically imbued human. Still, there are quite a few accurate flourishes and nods to Celtic, Gaelic, and other European myths scattered throughout the entire series. Elias's housekeeper, Silver, is a Silkie, a kind of brownie that helps people with domestic chores. In one story arc, we meet the King of Cats, along with their retinue of chatty, feline subjects. Even the King and Queen of Fairy make an appearance, which is actually my favorite literary nod in the entire series. When Titania first enters, she's riding a donkey, a la Midsummer Night's Dream. You know, bottom, turned into a donkey.
Jesus, read a book once in your life.
And while on the subject of real-world references, it's fitting that the Owl House takes place in Gravesfield, Connecticut, a clear stand-in for Salem, Massachusetts, best known for early Christians waterboarding folks that had any whiff of nonconformity on them. And Magus Bride also has its references to Christian history and mythos, but older and far darker than anything Disney would put in one of its cartoons. One of Chise's first introductions to the magical world is actually a series of tasks from the church. They have a distinct awareness of the magical world and vice versa. When our priest friend first meets Titania, she smells the scent of, quote, conqueror god on him, and magically whisks him away from her sight. And then there's Ruth, the church grim, a dog-like spirit that people create by doing something that reminds us that we don't deserve dogs. And Ruth, the name that's chosen for the hellhound by Chise, is a reference to the Old Testament. In Hebrew, it means friend or companion. But I don't want any Christian viewers to feel like they need to be upset. The anime makes a point not to disrespect the faith. Most of the Judeo-Christian references are either historical in nature, like Ruth, or non-canonical, like Cartophilus. And if that name doesn't ring a bell, don't look it up. You'll want to meet them through the anime, since they're an early, intriguing antagonist. For comparison, Belos's tyranny has nothing on the madness of Cartophilus. And it's just the first of many differences between the series. There's sort of a manic frivolity in the magic of the Owl House, at least in the first season. It's most evident in Luce's desire to learn spells, the magic school she later attends, the store-brand Quidditch they play. But rather than coming from the Titan or an internal organ's goop, magic in Chise's world comes from either manipulating the natural world through alchemy, or borrowing the magic of the Fae, the way Elias and other mages do. And if you're unfamiliar with the Fae of legend, their power usually has a cost. Being a Sleighbeggy, Chise gets sort of a fairy Costco discount, but a regular mage has to establish some kind of working agreement first, kind of like the Palisman in the Owl House, but far more likely to result in death or dismemberment. And don't get me wrong, there are moments of comic relief in the anime, and the Owl House isn't entirely about horsing around. But we dipped into the more serious parts of Magus Bride earlier. One of the major themes revolves around Chise's traumatic past and the abuses she's endured. In the third episode, an ancient dragon reads her memories, which leaves a bad taste in its mouth.
Unacceptable. The living should never envy the dead.
Yeah, that's one of those darker parts, and your trigger warning too. Chise has tried to unalive herself before, and she doesn't seem too jazzed to still be alive. And while more subtle, we see this in Elias as well. He's not human, and he's not Fae, but he's pretty well incapable of understanding human emotion. He tries to overcome the lack of emotional intelligence with the raw stuff, but Chise is not only fulfilling his need of an apprentice and companion, but acting as his girl Friday towards understanding the human condition. And just to address one of the anime's common complaints, the whole Chise being a bride thing. When Elias says bride, he really means partner, as we find out from his mentor in Season 2.
Not everyone has a bride, though. People can have a wife, a husband, or a spouse. Suffice it to say, they're a partner.
A partner?
I'm sorry. I swear I was doing my best to explain it to him, but that's just how it all came out.
His rudimentary understanding of humans is that when they grow up, they depart from their parents, get married, and start a new family. Really, his perception's about the same as a kindergartner playing house. So, if this idea of a teenager being a hulking fey monster's bride leaves you feeling kinda icky, try to go into the series with that grain of salt. In short, The Ancient Magus Bride is an exploration not only of the myths of Europe, but of existentialism. Through exploring the world of the Fae, Chise discovers more about what it means to be human, to be born and grow, the many ways that a life can be lived, and the end that awaits us all. If Chise's journey of self-actualization and the discovery of myths and monsters sounds exciting, there's a link in the description on where you can stream The Ancient Magus Bride. Or if you want to wreak havoc with Luce, Ida, and King while enjoying oodles of anime references, you can catch The Owl House on Disney+. And if you enjoyed this video, YouTube thinks you'd like this one next. Or I've got a list of all the other Western and anime comparisons I've done too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the next sermon.